The fix is in and the Democrats are ready to take the presidency. That's right, old child-sniffing, sleepy-ass, fumbly-bumbly Joe Biden was able to unseat the man who has finally started to bring peace to the Middle East and own the greatest economy the world has ever seen. Now, if you listen to the jackwagons in the media, Joe Biden is not only your president, but is already the greatest president this world has ever known. But not so fast, because our man, the Donald, is fixing to slap a trump card of his own down. All this and more, but first.
Every time who I am, well, how damn, I'm a man. 6 shooters in both my hands. I'm a cold-blooded brother, a real bad mother. Watch out, honey, here I am.
Well, it's Wednesday after the election, and is it just me, or does it feel like the election just began? Because we have seen so much tomfuckery from the Democrats here, and also from the media, and especially, let's announce the big losers of the night, the pollsters, that we don't really know what's going on yet. Now, of course, if you listen to the media, they are all saying that this is over, Biden has won, Biden is going to be our president, and not only that, go ahead and mint his Nobel Peace Prize a la Obama, and forget about the peace deals in the Middle East that Trump has been putting together. We can go ahead and cancel those, and we'll give Biden a Nobel Peace Prize for canceling the Middle East peace deals. That's what we're likely going to be coming up to. But I want to talk for a minute about the polls, because the polls were dead wrong. And don't worry, we're gonna get to all the fraud in just a minute, because I got a feeling that most of what we know is not going to be how all of this plays out. But you know, the polls were saying that this was going to be a Democrat landslide, that Joe Biden was going to landslide, that they were going to take the Senate and gain more seats in the House. I think they said something about like 9 to 11 more seats in the House, something like that. Well, they couldn't have been any more wrong, because the Republicans, while they did lose a seat, I think 2 seats actually, they do look to be on course to actually win or hold on to the Senate, and they actually picked up seats in the House, including in Miami-Dade County. The Republicans picked up 2 representatives. So that is a huge turnaround, and that was one thing that I saw. And normally Florida tends to be something of a bellwether for other battleground states, and that didn't happen in 2018, and it did not happen again last night, although, well, I don't want to say that it didn't, because it did for a while, and then, of course, we all went to sleep and then woke up the next morning, and, ooh, like magic, Joe Biden is ahead. But not to get ahead of myself, we're going to get into all that fraudulent business in just a minute. But if we look at the Senate race, this is one of the biggest things that shows every pollster out there needs to be fired. 538 should be 530 done. It is a nothing burger. I don't know why anybody listens to Nate Silver or any of these pollsters. In Maine, Quinnipiac had Sarah Gideon up 12 points on Susan Collins. And most other polls, that was the highest. Most other polls had Gideon up like 6, 7, 8 points on Susan Collins. Collins won by 9. Now, I'm no huge fan of Susan Collins. She's a bit of a rhino, and she's one of my least favorite senators, but I would still rather have an R than a D in that seat. So at least she won. You know, I guess it's something of a consolation prize. She's kind of I don't want to say she's a John McCain Republican, but she's in that, you know, John McCain the Maverick. I'm a Republican, but I like to side with the Democrats to show that I'm fair. Well, John McCain is burning in hell right now, but Susan Collins pulls that same shtick sometimes, her and Lisa Murkowski up in Alaska. But she won by almost 9 points. I mean, that means that the polls, if the average had her down by 6, that means the polls were off by 15 points. At this point, the polls are nothing more than a fraud. It's a scheme, and it's a game to cook up reaction to the election, whether it's to keep people from going to the polls or to get people fired up to go out to the polls. The polls cannot be, or the ballot, you know, the voting polls. But the polls themselves cannot be trusted anymore. But let's get to the main event here, and that is all of the corruption. So we have this from the Federalist, and this does a pretty good job of going through a lot of the broad strokes. So I'm going to pretty much just read this article here and add my commentary before I show some more specific examples. But we have this from the Federalist. Yes, Democrats are trying to steal the election in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. In the 3 Midwest battleground states, vote counting irregularities persist in an election that will be decided by razor-thin margins. So, as of this writing, it appears that Democratic Party machines in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania are trying to steal the election. They absolutely are. As reporters and commentators went to bed early Tuesday morning, all 3 battleground states were too close to call, but President Trump led former Vice President Joe Biden by comfortable margins, far beyond what had been predicted in the polls. Yeah, and that's another thing about the polls, is Trump outperformed in so many states by large percentage points. Large percentage points. Now, none of the networks called these states because enough mail-in ballots remained uncounted that it could swing either way, but Trump's position looked good. Yeah, I went to bed last night thinking that Donald Trump was going to be our next or continue to be our president. I woke up this morning and damn near had a heart attack. But the more I looked at information and the more I saw things coming out, the more confident I am that Trump is taking this to the courts, and he is likely going to win. And I really do believe he will. So, then something strange happened in the dead of night. In both Michigan and Wisconsin, vote dumps early Wednesday morning showed 100% of the votes going to Biden and 0%. That's 0. So not even 1 vote for Trump. Absolutely insane. In Michigan, Biden somehow got 138,339 votes, and Trump got none in an overnight vote dump. That has to be fraudulent. That cannot be real. And that was what overcame the deficit that Biden was facing. Same with Wisconsin. So when my Federalist colleague Sean Davis noted this, Twitter was quick to censor this tweet, even though all he had done was compare 2 sets of vote totals on the New York Times website, and he wasn't the only one who noticed, although on Wednesday it appeared that anyone who noted the Biden vote dump in Michigan getting censored by Twitter. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute because they also censored President Trump. And this is election interference in the highest order. And Jack Dorsey needs to be perp-walked out of San Francisco into a federal courthouse to be tried with trying to overthrow the election. Actually, he should be tried with sedition. He should be charged with sedition because and Jack Dorsey's not the only one, but Jack Dorsey especially, because Twitter has been so bad about this. They are doing everything in their power, and he was just testifying with Congress, which he showed up to Congress looking half hungover, wearing just rag clothes and just eyes all sleepy, looking like fuck you guys, I don't want to be here. That was Jack Dorsey to our government. Well, I think our government needs to show Jack Dorsey that Twitter and all these other big tech companies are not more powerful than the nation. And they need to suffer consequences, and Jack Dorsey needs to be in prison. Yes, prison. Mark Zuckerberg too. Hell, throw them all in there. So you can see here that it was that Sean Davis's tweet was censored. So while everyone was asleep and after everyone went home, Democrats in Michigan magically found a trove of 138,000 and 100 and all of those votes magically went to Joe Biden. Now, it's funny, isn't it, how all of these states where Trump was leading, well, we had Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. Trump was up in all 5 of those states, and they all just kind of said, well, we're getting a little tired now. I think we're going to go hit the dusty trail. We'll figure this out once we get all of our ballots that we have stashed in the back put in and counted. Very, very suspicious. When in the history of our election have they ever just decided to, we're just going to call it a night? You know, that's like if you were, you went to the Super Bowl. Your favorite team makes it to the Super Bowl. You get tickets. You get to go. And then halfway through the 4th quarter, they're just like, can we just come back and finish this game tomorrow? Can we just come back and finish the Super Bowl game tomorrow? Now, me being an Atlanta Falcons fan, I know what it's all. I know all about fourth quarter Super Bowl retirements. You know that. Don't get me started on that. And please no 28-3 comments in the comment section. I've had enough salt poured on that wound. But anyways, so yeah, we just woke up in the morning and over 100,000 votes in 2 different states, every single one of them to Biden. That is not possible. So others were quick to take note of the partisan censorship from Twitter and raise concerns over how 100% of a vote dump could possibly go to Biden. But the social media giant has maintained its crackdown on sharing this information. Of course, they only maintain that crackdown for people on the right. We had MoveOn.org went ahead and started posting calling states, and they didn't censor them. They didn't do anything to tell them, no, you can't put that out. No, because MoveOn.org is a leftist organization, and they're pushing forward Joe Biden. So Twitter users could not like or share a tweet from the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh noting the 138,339 vote dump. BuzzFeed later reported that that according to a spokesperson at Decision Desk HQ, the votes for Biden were the result of a data error from a file created by the state that we ingested. What? What? A data error from a file created by the state that we ingested? What were you doing ingesting files into your... That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And this is the thing. These people think that they can put out bullshit and just lie to our faces and make completely incoherent excuses for their fuck-ups. And we're just supposed to say, we're supposed to open up and say, oh yeah, feed me more. Feed me more. No. You just spit this shit back out in their face and say, no, that is not sufficient. That does not do the job in explaining how something this egregious happened. What do you mean, a data error from a file created by the state that we ingested? What the hell does that mean? What file were you ingesting? And why was the state creating this file to go into the voting machines? But no, they don't get those. The media just says, guys, it was a data error. They told us it was just a data error. No, that's bullshit. They got busted. That's what happened. So, it turns out the vote dump was the result of an alleged typo, an extra zero that had been tacked on to Biden's vote tote in Shiawassee County, Michigan. An alleged typo. Yeah, a little accident right there, huh? If 100,000 votes can be the result of a typo, wow, we got some election securities. If just accidentally hitting 0 one too many times can change the entire course of a nation. Doesn't seem very secure. And it also does not explain why not a single one of them went to Donald Trump. So you add an extra 0. First of all, there are no zeros in this 138,000 number, but let's say that county only, however many it made up. Why did Trump stay at 0? So I'm not buying any of this. So it seems the error was discovered only because Davis and other Twitter users noted how insane and suspicious the vote totals looked, and demanded an investigation that uncovered what was either a typo or an incredibly clumsy attempt to boost Biden's vote count. I think it was the latter, because we still haven't explained the 0 climb in Trump's vote count. There was also something suspicious about the vote reporting in Antrim County, Michigan, where Trump beat Hillary by 30 points in 2016. Initial vote totals showed Biden ahead of Trump by 29 points. As a result, that can't possibly be accurate, as plenty of journalists noted. Notice how all of these mistakes, they all go one direction. Did we have any mistakes that accidentally landed 100,000 votes to Donald Trump? No, we didn't. Yet we've seen countless mistakes that tend to favor Joe Biden. There comes a point where the math just doesn't add up. So, after the strange results caught national attention, election officials in Antrim County said that they were investigating what they called skewed results, working with the company that provides their election software to see what went wrong. The county clerk said they plan to have an answer by Wednesday afternoon. And I heard what happened was it switched the results. and that this voting software is used in, I think, 30 other counties in Michigan. That needs to be investigated because that could be huge. Huge. If you've got this program glitch that if you vote for Trump, it marks you down for Biden. Again, all these mistakes, one direction. So then another mysterious all Biden vote dump happened in Wisconsin. Biden miraculously overcame a 4.1 point Trump lead in the middle of the night thanks to vote dumps in which he got, you guessed it, 100% of the votes, and Trump got 0. Now we have these two graphs that show, and it says note the vertical lines in the graph. So this is from Andy Swan. The only thing we did on election night was tell them how many votes they needed on election night. Exactly. Exactly. All we did was tell them how many votes they needed to fraudulently include or add to Joe Biden's vote count to take these little tiny marginal leads. And you can see this right here. Joe Biden jumps straight up while Trump is flatlining. We can see this in Michigan. Jumps straight up, and then it just hooks up from there. Trump flatlining. Not quite flatlining, but he is not really climbing very much. These jumps right here are not natural. You can look at the rest of the graph, and you can tell that there's no way, shape, or form in which these two jumps here in Michigan and Wisconsin can possibly be valid. So on Wednesday, the Trump campaign demanded a full recount in Wisconsin, citing reports of irregularities in several Wisconsin counties, which raised serious doubts about the validity of the results. In Pennsylvania, the Michigan scheme to steal the election is a bit different. Rather than vote dumps that impossibly go 100% to Biden, Pennsylvania is relying on the Democratic Secretary of State's plan to count indisputably late mail-in ballots as though they were received on Election Day, even if they have no postmark. And this was the plan. This plan, of course, was rubber-stamped by Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which cited the need for equitable relief to address mail delays amid the pandemic. The pandemic has nothing to do with this. We knew they were. We've been saying it for months that this whole pandemic is all about the election. So is this a surprise now that they're saying equitable relief? What is equitable relief in a voting? That doesn't even make sense. They're just throwing in leftist buzzwords at this point because the Democrats have become a leftist religion where, you know, it's you have to throw in these intersectional academic words like equity and, you know, oppression and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've talked about the way the left talks countless times, but of course they have to throw that in there. So note that this isn't just about ballots that came in after Election Day, but about ballots that came in after Election Day and don't even have a postmark. That is, there's no way to tell when the ballots were mailed or from where. And you can see this highlighted here. And this was in Pennsylvania's ruling here. Ballots received within this period that lack a postmark or other proof of mailing, or for any proof of mailing whatsoever, or for which the postmark or the other proof of mailing is illegible, should enjoy a presumption that they were mailed by Election Day. Listen to that. Enjoy a presumption? This is the presidential election. You don't just enjoy a presumption that everything is above board. That is tin pot dictator banana republic status right there. Absolutely dirty. So, although it's true that the long delays we've seen for absentee ballot counts are due in part to state laws in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania that prohibit the counting of absentee ballots before Election Day, which is not the case in most other states, which also seems dirty in and of itself, because these are states that have Democrat governments, and they all lost to Trump in 2016, or the Democrats, they all went Trump in 2016. But they have Democrat governments. So why would you not be able to count ballots until after the mail-in ballots until after everything else has been counted? It's almost like they needed the measuring stick so that they knew how many mail-in ballots had to arrive or had to be counted after the election. These laws right here reek of impropriety. The fact that in these states, in these Rust Belt states, we're just going to hold off all the boxes of ballots that we haven't even looked at yet. We're just going to hold off until we know what we need. That is dirty. It's dirty. I'm probably going to say that word many, many times in this video because this shit is motherfucking dirty. So unless the election officials in Michigan and Wisconsin can explain the overnight vote dumps in Michigan, the typo that appeared to benefit Biden, and Pennsylvania officials can explain their rationale for counting ballots with no postmark, the only possible conclusion that one can come to right now is that the Democrats are trying to steal the election in the Midwest. They absolutely are. And we have this here from Texas Scorecard. There's a video. Wagons, suitcases, and coolers roll into Detroit voting center at 4 a.m. Poll watcher raises alarms over suspicious activity in Detroit during the early mornings. And this was the whole reason. They stopped the counting so that America would go to sleep and they could pull their dirty schemes when they thought nobody was watching. So, a new video provided to Texas Scorecard from a poll watcher in Detroit shows wagons, suitcases, and coolers moving in and out of the vote counting center during the early mornings. Kelly Sorrell, who took the video, is raising alarms that the box may have been a ballot box that arrived long after all ballots were expected to have been received at the counting facility. And we can see here, we can see the video.
Looks like one of those lock boxes. I wish I could tell.
And they continue to just show this guy wheeling it in. But that is, if I had to guess, I would say that wagon right there is full of Democrat ballots marked Joe Biden and all the other Senate, whoever else was on the ballot. And we see here also pictures. They're bringing in suitcases. We can see that. So these are the poll workers. They're bringing in these suitcases. Multiple poll workers bringing in suitcases. Bringing in coolers here. And we got boxes sitting around. Look at all these boxes and bags and everything that the poll workers had to bring to their 6-hour shift. So according to Sorrell, visitors were able to enter and leave the facility where the votes were counted without any identification check. The workers were apparently working for 6-hour shifts, meaning that there's no need to have overnight luggage. You don't take overnight luggage to your day job, do you? They're not going to be sleeping because they have plenty of votes to count, right? Either that or they didn't. But we also have here, also in Michigan, we've got this scene. So let's see. The scene at Detroit's absentee ballot counting center is growing more heated. The windows are now being covered up. Allegations of violations. Secretary of State says she welcomes challenges. We can see that they're covering up the windows. So that nobody can see what they are doing in there. This is sketch. This is super, super sketch. Absolutely sketch. And we also, Project Veritas just released a video that is very important here. So I'm going to go ahead and play this Project Veritas video for you guys. If it will play.
Tell us where you work.
I work in the Traverse City Post Office, more specifically the Barlow branch.
Your boss told you and your colleagues something that shocked you this morning. What was it?
We were issued a directive this morning to collect any ballots we find in mailboxes, collection boxes, just outgoing mail in general, separate them at the end of the day so that they could hand stamp them with the previous day's date. Today is November 4th, for clarification.
Who is your boss, and what is his title?
Jonathan would be a direct supervisor, yes. As of right now, he is the opening supervisor for the Barlow Branch Post Office. So and this is anecdotal, carrier down in another office said they watched the postmaster doing it. If it were just a typical day, it would be clerks doing it up at the distribution center.
So 8 p.m. election day, November 3rd. The Court of Appeals ruled ballots have to be received by that time. And what were you told?
To separate them today so they could mark them with yesterday's date and send them through the express system to wherever they needed to go.
This appears to be an attempt to circumvent Michigan law and allow late votes. And you said there was a hamper where letter carriers were supposed to leave their ballots. Where are the ballots now?
They were putting them into express bags to go to the distribution center. In regards to a hamper, there was a standard hamper that all letter mail was supposed to go to, and they had a tub next to it that we were supposed to put any ballots collected today into.
Yes. What made you come forward?
That's sketchy. Like sketchy, it screams corruption. Also knowing the post office's leanings politically, it didn't seem quite right.
What is your message to other postal workers who see things like this?
Report it. How are we supposed to have any integrity in this country if we are just going to let things slide based on a scaling issue?
Are you afraid of retaliation against you?
I've had whistleblower policies backfire on me in the past, so yes.
We'll have to reach out to Jonathan Clark for comment.
Hey, is this Jonathan?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a reporter with Project Veritas, James O'Keefe here, and I have information that you guys have been stamping ballots with the previous date, November 3rd. He just hung up. He just hung up the phone on me.
So there we have it. Michigan post offices are in on the fix. We had the postal union come through and endorse Joe Biden. Meanwhile, the Democrats try to push mail-in balloting to unprecedented levels. And we have been saying from the beginning that this was just going to create chaos and confusion and be ripe for voter fraud. And, about a month or so ago, the New York Post put out a whistleblower, a former top Democrat operative, who said that when it comes to mail-in balloting, voter fraud is the rule, not the exception. And he knows that because he was the one that was committing the fraud. And he talked in detail about all the different things that they would do to commit voter fraud on behalf of the Democrats. So it really shouldn't surprise you that Democrats, when I think in a fair election, a normal election where it was just everybody going to the polls, Donald Trump would have wiped the floor with them. And I think they know that. And that's why they push this mail-in balloting scam. Because they can create confusion, they can create chaos, and in the midst of that, they can slip in all of their fraudulent ballots. They can find many, many different ways to cheat the election. And I think it's going to come back and bite them in the ass, but we all know, let's do a little scenario here. The only way this is going to win for Trump or either side likely now is through the courts, which is going to delegitimize the election process even further. So if you think the last 4 years were bad, where they were saying that Trump was an illegitimate president, imagine the next 4 years when Trump won due to a Supreme Court where he appointed 3 of the justices. They're never going to accept it. This is going to cause violence in the streets. It's going to cause riots. It is going to cause further decay of trust in our institutions. It's going to further split America apart. But I tend to think that that was part of the game. That was part of the game from the Democrats all along. And I think that the courts really need to rule against mail-in ballots in every possible, in any possible scenario. Because the Democrats made this bed. Now they have to lie in it. Now, we all know that it will drive them insane They will do everything that they can to try to get Trump out of office. It will kick their insanity into even further overdrive, if that's even possible. But we cannot worry about that. We cannot worry about that. We have already had enough people who were liberal Democrats walk away and come to the Trump side, come to the Republicans, because of how crazy the Democrats have gotten. So, to me, just driving them even crazier just does them an even further injustice. It just further cements, chisels in the name on the gravestone of the Democrat Party. Which, chisel away. Chisel away. But there's also, here in Michigan, 7 voters older than the oldest human being alive today voted in Michigan, including a man born in 1850. Wow. Can you believe that? A man who could actually tell you what the Civil War was like because he was old enough to remember the experiences of it, just voted for Joe Biden. Let that sink in. Now, I remember a couple months back, I did an article, and I did a video, and the thumbnail that I did was an ominous graveyard, and the text on the thumbnail said, Democrats' biggest base? Well, look who might have been right. Because these are just egregious because of how old the person is. They can't possibly be real. But imagine the voter rolls of anybody who passed away in Michigan. If people are getting ballots from that don't belong to them from all over the place. I've got multiple ballots that don't belong to me that were sent to my apartment. People that used to live here. And, the part of the, when the Democrats say that the Republicans gutted the Voter Rights, the Voter Rights Act, and part of it was clearing up the ballots. Well, yeah, you want to get the dead names off the registration. You don't want to get people who have died still being registered to vote. That is a security threat. But, of course, with the Democrats, the whole point is to have no security on the election, because if there's security, how are they going to win? Because they can't win if they can't cheat. We know their game by now. And something has to be done about it. It's not enough for us to just know that they're doing it, because we can know they're doing it all day. If we let them get away with it, we're done as a country. Now, I don't think they're going to get away with it. I don't. And I'm going to get to more on that later. I'm still going to show you guys some more instances of just dirty tricks by the Democrats. So, more tricks and fraud. There are at least 7 voters in Michigan last night who were born before 1902. Before 1902. In fact, these voters are older than the oldest human alive today. The oldest person alive today was born in 1903, and so they have her beat. Who knew? Who knew that there were 7 Biden voters who were secretly the oldest 7 people in the world? All of these people are older than the oldest person on the face of the earth. So, yeah, quite the turnout. Quite the turnout. But we also had some tomfuckery going on in Wisconsin. So, 7 Milwaukee wards reported more presidential votes than registered voters. State voter turnout is nearly 90%, which is virtually impossible. Yeah, there is some serious tomfuckery going on here in Wisconsin. So, President Trump outperformed his 2016 totals in Wisconsin by 200,000 votes. And we're talking about a place where they had a grand total of a little over 3 million. And he outperformed 2016 when he won the state by 200,000. Doesn't seem possible. That's about 1/8 of his entire votes were excess from 2016, or in excess of his 2016 totals. It was a huge victory for President Trump in Wisconsin, a huge number. Last night, the President Trump had a sizable lead in Wisconsin, but this morning, Sleepy Joe somehow took the lead. Overnight, Wisconsin had a huge dump of votes, all for Biden. We already talked about that. We've already talked about the graph there. Let's see what else they have to say here. So yeah, they're saying, look at the graph. Milwaukee was... Okay, here we go. Milwaukee was supposed to report at 1 a.m. They delayed until 2 a.m. Then they delayed until 3 a.m. At 3:30 a.m., Biden overcomes a 4.1 lead. That does not add up. Not one bit. Doesn't make sense. So it now appears Wisconsin has a serious situation. According to Mike Caudry, there are more votes than voters in Wisconsin. So, yeah, so let's see. We had this graphic that came up, and they said number of registered in Wisconsin was 3,129,000. And you can see that is more than what we have here. Or, it's close. Actually, it's almost about the same number. I'm not doing the mental math in my head right now. I'm too tired. I got hardly any sleep last night. So thank you for bearing with me through this. I hope I'm doing a decent job. But we dug further and found from the official Wisconsin website that there are 3,684,726 active registered voters. So we're supposed to believe that Wisconsin had an 88% turnout. That's never been seen in recent U.S. history. And they're still counting votes. And this did not include the additional votes to other candidates. So I think Joe Jorgensen got like another 50,000 votes or something. 56,000, something like that in Wisconsin. So this is literally a 5+ standard deviations from the mean. That actually equals statistically, practically impossible. And I clicked that link earlier, and surprise, surprise, that tweet doesn't exist anymore. So, and now, 7 Democrat wards in Milwaukee turned in more votes than registered voters. 90% of Milwaukee wards reported 90% turnout. 90% of Milwaukee wards reported 90% voter turnout. That's impossible. That doesn't happen. So, seven city of Milwaukee voting boards reported more 2020 U.S. presidential election votes than they had registered voters, according to an analysis of results in the Secretary of State files. 5 of them were in the city's 11th aldermanic ward on the city's far southwest side. Vice President Joe Biden carried 5 in 2020 with 3,768 votes to President Donald Trump's 2,883, a margin of 885, or 8 times what it was in 2016 when Trump earned 1,904 to Hillary Clinton's 2012. The city of Milwaukee reported record turnout of 84% Tuesday. 243,144 out of 288,833 registered city voters cast a ballot. Biden defeated Trump in Milwaukee 195,000 to 48,000, a margin of 145,000. He won 80% of the city's total vote. Of the city's 327 voting wards, 90 reported turnout of greater than 90%. 201 reported turnout higher than 80%. Now, I think what needs to happen when they discover the mass voter fraud, they just need to throw out this district. Wipe it clean. And I'm sorry, I know that that is going to disenfranchise voters, but it is not the fault of the Trump campaign. The people who need to be held accountable that in the eyes of the Democrats for fucking them over and cheating are the Democrats in Milwaukee. I think if this is true, which it appears to be, these votes all from this entire county, or this entire district, needs to be thrown out because we can't trust it. And I think that needs to be the modus operandi of the Justice Department going through this. If you cannot trust the county vote, get rid of it. Because at the end of the day, the people of that city or that county or whatever jurisdiction we're talking about, they voted in those people. They voted in Democrat leadership. This is what Democrats do. They need to pay the price. They cannot be rewarded for voting in dirty politicians that run dirty schemes and then change presidential elections. That can't be allowed to happen. and the right people need to be held accountable for it, and that is the Democrats in Milwaukee. So this is how you steal an election. Yes, this is exactly how you would steal an election. And we also have here, demands rise for Pennsylvania Attorney General to step aside. He's trying to steal Pennsylvania from Trump. Yes, and this is Josh Shapiro. This little fucker right here. So calls for Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro to step aside are rising after he urged voters to seek election help from Democrats, mere days after stating that if all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, Trump is going to lose. So Shapiro drew strong reactions across social media after encouraging voters to seek election help from Democrats on Election Day. He tweets out, need help with your mail-in ballot, finding out where to vote, or something else? Call the PA Dems voter assistant hotline. Someone will answer and help you out. Really? You're going to use your party's hotline to try to This is very, very bad faith. There is no way that you can justify this as being in good faith, especially when Josh Shapiro oversees the election. He's the one who oversees it. And he's telling the people of Pennsylvania, if you got any questions, call the Democrats. So days earlier, Shapiro predicted that Trump would lose the Keystone State contingent on if all votes are added up. Yeah, because he knows that they have plenty of fraudulent votes to add up. And that's why they just stopped counting in the middle of the night, because then they could know exactly how many votes they needed to add up. How many ballots they needed to add up, because they had them packed away in a box ready to go. His partisan position continues to draw heavy criticism, particularly given that the presidential race could come down to the Keystone State, which is continuing to count outstanding ballots. Pennsylvania GOP Attorney General candidate Heather Heidelbaugh called on Shapiro to step aside from the process entirely. Shapiro cannot be seen as having his thumb on the scale, acting in the dual roles of legal arbiter of the vote and a candidate deeply invested in its outcome. Exactly. And, you know, we got Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Clear conflict of interest. These Democrats don't seem to care very much about when they have a conflict of interest. In fact, they tend to be opportunists who try to maximize how much they can get out of each conflict, or each side of the conflict. So, she said in a statement calling the Attorney General to appoint a trusted and impartial deputy to oversee legal questions and disputes in which that office may play a role in concerning this election. This is why I can't stand the lack of balls on people who are Republicans or conservatives or trying to keep the Democrats in check, because Shapiro is doing all this dirty stuff, and what is she asking to happen? For him to appoint a trusted and impartial deputy. You know he's just going to appoint one of his cronies if he followed through with that. You know it wouldn't be impartial. It'd be as impartial as a Facebook fact checker. So the outcome of these elections in Pennsylvania must not be muddled with the glaring conflict of interest. So this is from Republican AGs. New statement by Heidelbaugh on ongoing PA election. I'm calling on Josh Shapiro to appoint a trusted and impartial deputy to oversee any legal questions and disputes in which that office might play a role concerning this election. The outcome of these elections in Pennsylvania must not be muddled by the glaring conflict of interest. Yeah, but don't ask Shapiro to appoint who's going to replace him. No, that has to be done outside. So others signaled concern. That's interesting, considering PA's Democrat AG, Josh Shapiro, said on October 31st, days before the election, if all the votes are added up in Pennsylvania, real Donald Trump is going to lose. And so he's asking the Justice Department to investigate. I'm worried that our Justice Department still has no teeth, though. That really concerns me. Bill Barr, I'm starting to lose faith in Bill Barr. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's a mistake. I could be wrong. I don't know. Bill Barr just seems resigned to let everything drag out as long as possible and never come to a conclusion. Never actually reach anything. That's why we saw Trump posted that meme that was Chris Farley yelling at Bill Barr saying, basically, give me some damn indictments. You know, where are the indictments? So Benny Johnson here says, this bastard is going to try to steal Pennsylvania from Trump. He literally states that that's what that he's doing this. How much more evidence do you need? Exactly, and that was one of the things with that same thing with Bill Barr and the Chris Farley meme. Is how much more evidence do you need? These people just get away with everything because nobody has the balls to stand up to them because they're worried that the media is then going to go after them. Fuck the media. If you think retweet if you think Josh Shapiro should be nowhere near the Pennsylvania ballots and should resign for election interference. I think he should be arrested. I think he needs to be in jail for what he's doing. He is trying to steal the election. Stealing a presidential election from a state should not just mean you lose your job. You should lose your freedom over that. So this is just a bunch of people talking about. So the governor added that they may not know the results either today, but the most important thing is that we have accurate results. Yeah, this is Tom Wolf, and Tom Wolf is also terrible, terrible, terrible Democrat. He's one of the ones that was putting all the nursing homes with COVID. Again, even if it takes a little longer than we're used to, Secretary of State Kathy Boockvar also reiterated the governor's claims of there being millions of ballots left to be counted. 2 Republican state senators in Pennsylvania, Joe Scarnati and Jake Corman, are calling for Boockvar's resignation, claiming that she's fundamentally altered the manner in which Pennsylvania's election is being conducted in the last 2 days. He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. But, of course, it's not just these Democrat governors and Democrat governments that are trying to steal the election and are meddling in the election. Of course, we already touched on it earlier, but big tech. And so, from the Federalists here, we have that big tech censored Donald Trump, the president of the United States, on election night. Twitter is censoring the president on election night. This should be a crime. Something's got to be done about big tech because they are a technocratic regime with more power than any nation in this world, and they are running amok, and they are socially engineering a world to fit their vision. With no accountability, nobody's elected. They're deciding the course of humanity without our input. Very, very dangerous stuff. So Donald Trump tweeted, we are up big, but they are trying to steal the election. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed. So Twitter censors Trump, not Biden, for supposed policy violations on election night. Twitter censored President Donald Trump's tweet Tuesday, in which he alleged that the Democrats are attempting to steal the election. I already read the tweet. According to Twitter, the tweet is considered misleading about the election or other civic processes and violates their civic integrity policy. Due to this violation, the big tech company prohibited users from engaging, commenting, retweeting, or even sharing a link to the tweet. Completely made it so people couldn't see it. People couldn't get the word out. They are actively suppressing anything that favors President Trump. In fact, I was watching Steven Crowder earlier, and he was saying that he had some videos that were taken down or demonetized or something for interfering in the election, and it was like a video about Bill Nye the Science Guy and a couple others that had nothing to do with the election. But they were like, it essentially means that, well, you could get people thinking like a conservative, so we can't have that out there. You might have people thinking with their head, using their brain. So we can't have that. The algorithm didn't tell them to think that. These big tech companies are out of control. So We believe we have a responsibility to protect the integrity of those conversations from interference and manipulation, the policy states. The censorship of the president came after a reporter from NBC News publicly proclaimed he had reached out to Twitter about Trump's tweets. Shortly after he complained to Twitter, restrictions were placed on Trump's original tweet. So this is Ben Collins, this little fucktard here. We've reached out to Twitter about the president's tweet. Twitter has added this label to the president's tweet. No comment yet from Twitter's spokespeople. Yeah, it's... I believe they're saying it's this Ben Collins guy that... President Trump is saying stuff that might damage Biden. Let's go to Twitter and tell them they got to take it down. And of course, Twitter does. This is collusion. You know, Russia collusion is nothing compared to Democrat big tech collusion and Democrat media collusion. Somehow that seems that they treat that as if there's nothing wrong with that, though. Nothing wrong with that. So, we also have here, Trump has announced that he has won Pennsylvania, and I really like this move. Before last night, when Trump came out and gave his speech last night, gave his announcement, he basically declared that they had won, and I had a number of my pro-Trump friends saying, oh man, I don't think he should have done that. I don't think he should have done that. I was like, no, fuck you. I didn't say that. They're my friends, but yeah, they're my friends. But I was basically like, no. We want him on the offensive. We as conservatives and Republicans have been like programmed to be scared, to fight back, to stand up. And we've got to break that. We've got to break that. We got to let our balls drop, you know? And we got to be able to step up and throw our punches and not worry about what they're going to say. Stop worrying about the damn optics. The optics don't matter because no matter what you do, you're not going to be in their favor. There is no winning that game, so why play by their rules? Fuck the media, fuck big tech, fuck all of them. They don't like it? They want to create some sort of controversy or storm around it? Let them. Because most people that have any kind of hope of finding out the truth of what's going on in the world don't watch the mainstream media anyways. Or they only do it to check them and make sure that they're, see where they're lying. So President Trump's campaign on Wednesday announced that they had won the state of Pennsylvania and were on track to win both Arizona and the president's re-election by the end of the week. We are declaring a victory in Pennsylvania. This is not based on gut or feel. This is based on math, Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien said on Wednesday in a conference call with reporters. And I'm not going to get into all of what they say here because this video, I'm trying to not go 120 minutes with each one of my videos. I'm trying to keep them under an hour. But I think it was good that Trump did declare victory. He needed to do that. And he is also suing Michigan after access to midnight ballot counts was denied. So you saw in Michigan, this is where they were putting up the boards so nobody could see in. And they were denying anybody from even being able to go into the polls. And we also saw this in Philadelphia, where Republican poll watchers were trying to go to polls in Philadelphia to watch the polls, and they were kicked out and told, no, you can't be here. We also saw in Philadelphia they were putting up boards telling people who to vote for, and of course it was Biden. So all kinds of dirty deals going on with the Democrats in this election. So, to this article. The Trump presidential campaign is suing Michigan, saying that Republicans were denied access to observe and oversee the opening and counting of ballots in the state. State law requires participation by both major parties in vote counts as a fraud prevention measure. As votes in Michigan continue to be counted, the presidential race, or let's see, what did this tweet say here? From Justin, Trump's legal team announces lawsuit. Okay, so yeah. As votes in Michigan continue to be counted, the presidential race in the state remains extremely tight, as we always knew it would be, wrote Trump's 2020 campaign manager Bill Stepien. President Trump's campaign has not been provided with meaningful access to numerous counting locations to observe the opening of ballots and the counting process as guaranteed by Michigan law. And that was where you saw the person wheeling in the wagon full of what are likely ballots, illegal ballots. According to Stepien, the lawsuit aims to stop the counting until the campaign has ensured equal access and review of the ballots counted while Republican observers are boxed out, or were boxed out. So, good to see that Trump is fighting back. And we also have here, he is suing my home state of Georgia. So President Donald Trump's campaign and the Georgia Republican Party have filed a lawsuit against Chatham County Board of Elections. That is Savannah, Georgia, which I love Savannah. It sucks that it's Democrat, but it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Asking a judge to order the county to secure and account for ballots received after 7 p.m. on Election Day. State Party Chair David Schaefer said in a statement Wednesday night that they have planned to sue a dozen counties. The lawsuit alleges that a Republican observer watched a poll worker take unprocessed absentee ballots from a back room and mix them into processed absentee ballots waiting to be tabulated. So, they're doing this, guys. They're doing this. I also saw a picture, I don't have it pulled up, so a buddy of mine sent it to me early in the day yesterday, of somebody with just their arms just full of ballots, stuffing them into a mailbox. That's illegal. Can't do that. So in Georgia, ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on Election Day in order to count. So, more fraud going on in my home state, which, come on. Come on. But we see Trump here is assembling an all-star legal team for his election challenges, which, good. He needs the best of the best because this is the fight for our nation. President Donald Trump's re-election campaign is assembling an all-star legal team to spearhead legal challenges in battleground states such as Michigan, according to Wednesday Report. So among the lawyers the president is activating include his private attorney, Jay Sekulow, who will help campaign lawyers with matters before the Supreme Court, as well as New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. Sidney Powell, the lawyer for Michael Flynn, may also be called upon. Yes, love Sidney Powell. She is awesome. The report comes hours after Trump campaign filed lawsuits to halt vote counts in Michigan and Pennsylvania, another key battleground state. As votes in Michigan continue to be counted, the presidential race remains extremely... Okay, that was what I read from the last article. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who is very aware. Like he is not he's not somebody who's not paying attention. But even he told me he could not believe how massive this voter fraud has been by the Democrats. And I just asked him, I said, think to yourself, how many people have the Democrats been able to get to go out and burn down cities for 6 months on end every day? You think they can't get enough people to just throw in some ballots here and there? No. If they can get people that are willing to go and burn down cities, they can damn sure get people that'll commit fraud. They basically have like their white-collar Antifa team here. That's essentially what this is. They got their white-collar Antifa team. And, the Antifa goes out and Black Lives Matter, they go out and they burn down the buildings and they beat up Trump supporters and all that stuff. But then they got their more civilized Democrat criminals. Because at this point, the Democrat Party seems to be nothing but a criminal organization, a criminal empire. And we can't have it. We can't have it. But there is faith. And, there is some hope. We've seen all of this. Hopefully this will will help Trump win some cases in the Supreme Court with this. But we also have here from the U.S. Cyber Command, our efforts did not end last night. Election defense is integrated into our everyday operations. So, kind of got me thinking when I saw this. What could that mean? We know that the National Guard was deployed to a lot of our... this is just Jersey here. But they were deployed in, I think, 12 different states, the National Guard. And they're going out to count votes in the election. National Guard is military. Now, I'm not super versed on the National Guard, but because they're military, I would think that they would So they would report to either like Department of Homeland Security or maybe, which, of course reports to the president, I believe. Kind of makes you wonder, did they have some measures in place? Because Donald Trump is not an idiot. I think Donald Trump knew a lot, and his team knew a lot of what the Democrats were going to try. And if the Democrats have been fraudulently printing ballots and using fake ballots and things like that, could there possibly be some forensic analysis that can be done, whether it's watermarks in the paper or dyed with some sort of isotopes or something? I don't know. I have no idea. But I would think that there would be some sort of, it's like our money. We put watermarks and holographic strips and all kinds of stuff in our money so that we can guarantee that it's real. And there can be people that can forge it and do it pretty well, but it's never quite the same. So, kind of makes you wonder, is there something set up? Did they see this coming? Where they had somebody like Department of Homeland Security, somebody like the National Guard, somebody like the NSA, somebody that put some measures into place on these ballots. I sure hope so. I can't say for sure. I'm just speculating. Could be though. I would not overrule it, because I got to imagine Trump knew this was coming. I got to imagine Trump knew it. And I don't think Trump is somebody who is going to leave that vulnerability unattended. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if there's sort of any kind of forensic tests, quick forensic tests that can be done on each ballot to determine whether it's real or not. I don't know. Maybe so, maybe not. But at this point, I do think that there's so much information coming out on the fraud, on the cheating, that I don't see how the Democrats are going to be able to take these cases to the Supreme Court and win. So I know a lot of people are out there giving up hope because the media is out there telling you to give up hope if you're a Trump supporter. But I think this is just the beginning of the elections. This is just the beginning of the fight. So stand strong. Share as many instances of fraud with as many people as you possibly can so that people know what's going on, so that the Democrats are held accountable for trying to steal the election. Anyways, guys, that's the video. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell, because we all know it's voices like mine that are first to be taken out back and old yellered by the folks at Big Tech. If you want to follow me, I am on all the platforms. You can see it down on the graphic down there, on the infographic. I also did recently open up a store. You've also seen some of the merch, from my merch store down there. I don't have a whole lot yet. T-shirts, hoodies, ladies' shirts, tank tops, that kind of thing. But go ahead and check it out. There are some cool designs there. Help support the channel, because there's not many ways for me to prosper on YouTube in this political environment doing what I do. It's going to take the help of people like you guys. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, rev your engines, ride hard, and fight like hell.
Every time who I am, well, how dare